Hey guys, I've got the Pro Stick B&M shifter for my 2010 JK. This thing fits for 2007 to 2010 JK Wranglers. I've already checked over all the parts here, the brackets. I've got everything here that's supplied with the kit. I'm going to go ahead and throw it on. The kit comes with a full set of instructions. I started here on step number 1, checking to make sure I have everything that comes with it. Step 2 is to raise the vehicle up. I'm on a 4-inch lift with 35, so I don't need to really raise it up. So I'm going on to step 3. I'm going to put my transfer case into 4 high. There we go. Should be in 4 high there. Remove handle stem by pulling directly upward. Probably going to be hard to get this thing off. Already not going as planned, but there's a little collar on here you pop off with a flathead screwdriver. And there's a collar on this one, on the transfer case shifter. I destroyed this, so it just says to pull up on this, which that is not the case. This, you have to pop this off from the bottom, and I just destroyed it, taking it off. And then to pop this off the top, still wouldn't come off. So then I pried this off. Well, actually this sits on there. I had to pry that off. And then this little metal tab. So after I finally got all those off, then it lifts out. So I will be buying a new transfer case shifter, the B&M one. So that worked out well. And then on to transmission shifter. That one actually, once you pop the collar, that one did come off pretty easy. You just lift it right up. Alright, so the next step here is to pry this off. I used a flathead to get under there, and then I wedged in my little prier tool here, pop that up, and this all is supposed to lift out. So that's the next one. Alright, finally got this out. Next step is remove. There's 6 screws here, here on the other side. 1, 2, 3, and 4. So I'm going to take those out and pull this center console out. Alright, now I'm finally ready to pull the center console loose. I was having trouble because it says there's 6 screws, 1, 2, and then there's 2 up front and 2 over here, but it wasn't coming loose, so I undid this one and this one on each side, and then it pops right up. So I'm just gonna say right now, these instructions suck. So there's actually 8, 9, let's see, no, 4, yeah, 8, 9. There should be 10 screws, unless I'm doing something wrong. Alright, center console's out, and I had to pull the e-brake up about as high as I could get it to slide that center console out. I use a screwdriver to pry this out, and then it wants me to disconnect this electrical connector from here, and it was a little bit tough getting out, so just kind of work it out, but try not to break it. Alright, you got 4 10mm bolts to get this shifter console out. So got those loose. This thing just, once you got them off, they'll pull right out, and we'll go on to the next step. And then you're going to want to undo this. So basically this is sitting in there, you just kind of like slide it up like that and pop it right out. And then next I'm going to undo this shifter cable here. Just undo this little bolt, and hopefully that should release this shifter cable. Hopefully you guys can see that. Shifter cable should be coming off. Let's see. Might need two hands for this. Oh, no, it's coming. Alright, so once you get that bolt off, I just used a screwdriver to pry this loose from the shifter housing. And then, here we go. It's out. I gotta set this other one in here and just kind of, let's just see how this thing's gonna look. Well, I still need my bracket, but rough idea. That looks pretty sick. We're only about halfway done though, so. So the next deal here is just removing these. There's two screws down here. Kind of hard to see, a little bit tough to get to, but I got a flexible ratcheting wrench. So you're gonna get in there and pop that plate off. So I'll get that off and I'll be back. So here I am under the Jeep now. So I just pulled the shift cable down. This is the reason I'm doing this, is because when I pulled this, I don't know if you can see that, where it connects, the little bushing connects to that little pin on the transmission cable. I'll see if I can get it. Sorry about the lighting. So this little thing connects right up to wherever that thing went. Here we go. So, where'd it go? So this connects onto here, if you can see, but the reason it just keeps popping off, I've replaced this bushing, so I mean, when I pulled this off, it literally just like come off with hardly no pressure. And then, so there's a little spring clamp. Just pinch this spring clamp here to pop that out of there. Now that's loose, and then the instructions say to take this drive shaft off, but I'm going to attempt to do it without taking the drive shaft off. And then next, you gotta get to this bolt all the way up here, the transmission shifter. So that's the next one. Alright, shifter bracket's off. There's one bolt here, and you know, it just sits up on that post up here, right on top of the transmission. That's what shifts the transmission right there. I was able to use a angled socket like one of these here, with an extension and a ratchet wrench. On to the next one. Alright, next, taking off these two bolts right here for this transmission cable bracket. That's let me see what socket I've got here. This one is a 13. That was the same one for the bracket on top of the transmission as well. So I got my my cable lever on, and I also got this cable bracket on. Those I felt like were pretty straightforward, so I'm back in the Jeep now. And one thing I did was, so pulling this cable out, so from the bottom underneath I tied a rope to this part. This is the bushing where it keeps popping off on the transmission lever deal. So so for sliding my new cable in, now I'll tie this rope to the new cable, and it should help guide it back where I need to go a little easier. So that could be a helpful tip. Alright, shifter is all installed. I'm gonna try to kind of pick up where I left off. Things got Things were taking much longer than expected at night when I was finishing this up, and I just kind of had to stop recording and try to get this thing done. But I finished everything under the vehicle, and then I came back inside the vehicle. I think bolting in the shifter bracket for the shifter was pretty self-explanatory. There was just 4 bolts. Then you just mount the 4 bolts for the shifter onto the bracket. That was pretty easy. There's a connect the cable. There's another cable that there's a small little thing that connects on this side of the shifter that gives you your park. You know, it gives you all those lights. It doesn't seem to work 100% the greatest, but anyways, it does light up much better at night. Mostly I just look at the indicator on the dash anyways. But yeah, this thing, I mean, it shifts freaking awesome. I love that little click. So I just put this shifter in my 2010 Jeep Wrangler JK. It's a B&M Pro Ratchet Shifter. Got this whole thing installed, and then as soon as I get done, my key won't come out of the ignition. So after probably hours and hours of headache, took it all back apart. It comes down to this little spring on this cable. For some reason, I took this clip off when I released this from the stock shifter. I thought I was going to be getting rid of this cable. I didn't really know what the purpose of it was. Well, I guess this, when you put the key in, I guess this spring like opens without this clip on it. So I happened to squeeze this and my key came out of the ignition. So put that clip back on and now it's working fine. Just in case anybody's, you know, doing this shifter and they happen to mess with this, that could be your problem if you can't get your key out of the ignition. Shifter looks freaking awesome. Now it's time to put it all back together. I did have to trim, so under this plastic I had to trim. This piece connects all under here. I had to trim some sections out for that cable to make it so the plastic wasn't pushing down on it. Underneath at the end, I had to go down and do some adjustments on the transmission cable. It tells you to put the shifter in neutral and you put the transmission in neutral by hand. I can show you kind of how to do that. Turn that thing off. Alright, so I did not have to remove the drive shaft at all, but if you can see that lever where the cable's attached, you pull towards the front of the vehicle to put it in neutral, and if you need to put it back towards like drive, then you push it towards back of the vehicle. So there's how it is. There's the cable, goes right up into the cab. So I left the 2 bolts loose when I connected this bracket here. When the shifter's in neutral and the trans is in neutral, I got this in a good spot here. I connected it and then tightened these bolts. Went up in the inside, and then that's when I checked it to make sure it went through all the gears nicely, and once it did, and that's when I had the problem where I couldn't get the key out, and then I was just kind of done for the night. The next day I finally figured that out, and took it for a test drive, and everything was working great. So looks like I got some oil coming from somewhere, so this thing does have an oil leak. I'm gonna have to probably start with the valve cover gaskets on that, and because it's leaking everywhere, so I can't really tell if it's just leaking from the top or if it's leaking somewhere else. So I'm gonna have to start with the valve cover gaskets and go from there. But I am out here getting ready for a road trip with my jet ski. We're going to the lake. Checked all my, got to check my tire pressures. I'm going to add some oil to the Jeep, some radiator fluid. Check all the fluids, and I tightened all the lugs. They were good, but I just gave them one little crank. Make sure they're all good and tight. On the other hand here, I had to buy a spare tire for the jet ski trailer. I did not have one, which I should have had one a long time ago, but this is my first trip with the jet ski. Brand new motor. These lug nuts, the lugs were loose on this thing. I mean, they were not loose, like they weren't going to fall off loose, but they were a little high. They were just a little bit tighter than probably hand tight. So I am very glad I checked the lug nuts on these, and now I need to. I think I'm going to need some air on these tires. I got bringing some tools with me. So just in case we get a flat, I had double checked and made sure my spare tire was going to fit. Fits perfect. Eventually I want to, well, if I do a bunch more road trips, I'd like to get a bigger tire for this, because these tires are just tiny, but not a whole lot of room here. But I think I can maybe make a little extra room. Let me know what you think. Can I fit a bigger tire on these things, on this trailer? Alright, well, thanks for watching. That concludes today's video. If you like the content, give me a subscribe and a like, and I'll keep making more content.